Hello, it's great to be with you. So, why is inequality extreme in the United States? And why is employment for so many Americans unstable and tenuous? And why does the US lag China and Europe in many critical new technologies? The basic answer: predatory value extraction. The nation's business corporations are being systematically looted. In some cases, the looting occurs out of regulatory sight by private equity managers who buy up the shares of publicly listed companies, take them off the stock market, load them with debt, downsize the labor force, all for the sake of making the private equity managers incredibly rich by paying them massive dividends. In other cases, the looting takes place in plain regulatory sight, in fact, with regulatory approval, by publicly listed corporations that do massive stock buybacks to manipulate the company's stock price, thereby enriching corporate managers with their stock-based pay and hedge fund managers who time the buying and selling of corporate shares. The Academic Industry Research Network, the nonprofit I lead, dissects predatory value extraction of publicly listed companies. From 2010 to 2020, S&P 500 companies did $5.4 trillion in buybacks, 57% of the profits, in addition to $3.9 trillion in dividends, another 42% of profits. That left about 1% to reward the company's employees for the value-creating work that made the profits possible and for increased investment in the productive capabilities to generate innovative products. Worse yet, corporate managers who do massive buybacks seek to increase profits by price gouging customers and suppressing workers' wages, thus funding even more buybacks so that even more cash can flow into their bank accounts and those of hedge fund managers. Since the mid-1990s, 1980s, I should say, under Jack Welch and Jeffrey Immelt, GE was a leader in doing stock buybacks. Under Immelt, from 2002 to 2015, GE wasted $57 billion in buybacks, 29% of profits, in addition to 61% on dividends. In October 2015, Nelson Peltz disclosed that his hedge fund, Trian Partners, had purchased $2.5 billion of GE stock, about 0.9% of GE's outstanding shares. Trian claimed to be engaged in constructive dialogue with GE and that by taking Trian's advice, GE could boost its stock price to $45 by 2017. That would enable Trian to turn $2.5 billion into $4.5 billion. Note that not 1 cent of the $2.5 billion with which Trian purchased GE shares on the market was invested in GE's productive capabilities. The hoped-for gains would be nothing but predatory value extraction. Immelt and his CFO told the Wall Street Journal that they were completely aligned on the levers, to quote, suggested by Trian to increase GE's stock price. Immelt stated, quote, the buyback opportunity is right in front of us, quote. In 2016, GE paid $8.8 billion in dividends. It's the first year that Trian held the shares, full year. A shade under 100% of profits, plus $22.6 billion in buybacks, another 256% of profits. Nevertheless, in early 2017, Peltz let it be known that CEO Immelt had not done enough to increase the GE stock price. And by June, Immelt announced, with Peltz's boot in his backside, that he was retiring as CEO. In October 2017, Peltz got GE to put his son-in-law and Trian partner Edward Garden on the company's board. From 2016 to 2021, GE's revenues dropped from $120 billion to $74 billion. Its worldwide employment plunged from 333,000 to 168,000. Over the years 2017 to 21, the company's losses totaled $37 billion. In November 2021, as many people have commented, GE announced its proposed breakup into 3 companies engaged in energy, medical equipment, and aviation. The same industrial activities, by the way, on which from the late 19th century, the company had been built. With GE's depressed stock price still representing about 5% of Trian's portfolio, Peltz and Garden have pushed for the GE breakup as a way of creating shareholder value for themselves. How then, with less than 1% of GE's outstanding shares, have Peltz and Garden been able to exercise so much power over GE's resource allocation? For the full story, please read my book, Predatory Value Extraction, How the Looting of the Business Corporation Became the U.S. Norm and How Sustainable Prosperity Can Be Restored. But here it is in a short form. First, corporate managers of value-extracting insiders aligned with the hedge fund managers as value-extracting outsiders in using tens of billions of dollars of the corporation's dollars to do buybacks to manipulate the company's stock price. Second, the U.S. Labor Department and SEC rulings from the late 1980s to the early 2000s have empowered hedge fund managers to assert corporate control by lining up the proxy votes of asset managers who, as value-extracting enablers, are seeking higher yields on their portfolio. Third, the National Securities Markets Improvement Act of 1996 permits a hedge fund to have more than 99 asset managers or rich individuals as investors in its fund without being regulated by the Investment Company Act and Investment Advisors Act, which would prohibit the hedge fund from directly engaging a corporation in a predatory campaign and placing its own representatives on the corporation's board. That, in a nutshell, is why there are predatory value extractors in the boardrooms of major U.S. corporations, doing billions upon billions of dollars of buybacks to loot the revenues created by employees' skills and efforts. So how do we stop the looting? Ban buybacks, put employee representatives on corporate boards, and bar the predatory value extractors. Thank you.